In this video I want to show you a bit of an update of my fish room. It's been a while since I made any videos about what was happening in the fish room. I think like a couple of months at least. So there have been a few changes that happened in this space. So I'll take you briefly through all the tanks and all the fish that I have in this fish room. I'll start with this tank up here, which was previously a tank where we had our group of Hypancistros L33 and a collection of various Corydoras species. I've changed it ever since. I moved Hypancistros down there, and I will talk about them in a moment. And the reason why I've done it is because I found that it's quite hard to keep Corydoras with Hypancistros, because Hypancistros require strong flow. They also eat lots of meaty, high protein foods, which are not particularly healthy for Corydoras. So I had an issue with my Corydoras when they've actually stopped feeding, and they didn't look very happy. So I had to deworm the tank, and I had to add some Melafix, and they went back to normal life and normal health. But in any case, I have decided to separate these two species, and I've decided to escape this tank. Actually, I didn't specifically try to create this particular setup, but just I had all these pieces of driftwood with some moss growing on them. There are different types of moss in here, and here you can actually see some of my Corydoras. This is a beautiful CW28 male, and there is another male in the back. Males normally have this high fins, which distinguish them from females. That's an absolutely beautiful fish. I also have here, apart from Corydoras CW28, I have here a few Corydoras Schwarze, which are closely related to CW28. They're actually almost the same species, because CW28 is also sometimes referred to as Super Schwarze. And I have here my group of Corydoras granti, formerly known as Arcuatus. So these three species of Corydoras living in here, and as these are fish, I've added some Hemigrammus erythrazonus or glow light tetras. Most of this moss that you see here on driftwood is actually Christmas moss, but there are also bits and pieces of other mosses that I've had. For example, flame moss up here, some spiky moss in here, which is not doing very well actually, and also some Taiwan moss on some of the lava rocks on the bottom of this tank. So this tank is filtered by two sponge filters. There's no other filtration on it, and yeah, it has some basic LED lights, and I keep the temperature at about 25 degrees Celsius, because this is what Corydoras normally like. This is one of my Corydoras Schwarze in here. I've thrown them some frozen Daphnia, so they are a bit more active, and they come out to the front of the tank, because otherwise all of these Corydoras are quite shy. So let's move on to the next tank on this rack. Yeah, there's literally no way to So let's move on to the next tank on this rack. And I've recently escaped this tank. This is a 60-liter Denali cube, and it has my group of wild-caught Nanostomus beckfordi. I believe these are Nanostomus beckfordi because I bought them as red Brazil pencilfish, and it's hard to focus on them because they are quite shy. Yeah, so the males certainly have a bit more red on them than regular pencils, beckfordi pencils, but I believe that this is a variety of Nanostomus beckfordi. So this tank has a sponge filter with relatively gentle flow. No other filtration. I've added a layer of leaf litter, and there is some Christmas moss growing on various pieces of bogwood. There are also floating plants in here, mostly Amazon frogbeet and some Hydrocotyle leocephala. So this is a species only tank, and actually the idea of keeping pencils by themselves has worked quite well for me, and I have quite a lot of fry hiding in these floating plants. It will be very difficult to find them in here, but there are various sizes of pencil fish fry living in here, and the adults, they seem to ignore juveniles for the most part. They're quite well fed, so there is no need for them to hunt down the juveniles, and I'm hoping that most of these juveniles will grow to adulthood. I'm feeding them some of this oh, it's not focusing. Yeah, I'm feeding them some of this liquid fry from Interpet, which they seem to enjoy. And I've had good success with raising pencil fish fry in community tanks before, so I'm hoping that all is going to be well with them. Alright, moving down. Well, in here I have some containers for various mosses that I'm trying to grow. This is some Zeus water tank, and there is some Christmas moss in here, and this is a riparian moss from Tropica. I'm not quite sure yet where I will be planting all this moss. So in here I have an explosion of pothos. This is a golden pothos, and it's doing quite great. It has its roots in both of these tanks, but mostly in this tank over here. And it seems to enjoy this LED lamp quite a lot. So in this tank I have my colony of Hypancistrus L333 King Tiger Plecos. Now they have this setup all to themselves, so there's no other fish in here. There's lots of flow in here. You can see there's a relatively powerful pump in the back which pushes lots of current to the front of the tank, and I keep the temperature quite high in here, so it's about 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, which is what they love. And again, I couldn't afford heating them up so much in a different tank because other fish would not enjoy such a high temperature. You can see there is a male waving his tail, and apparently he might have some fry or some eggs. They have spawned for me a couple of times, but so far I have not seen any fry. There is another male in here, and he's not waving his tail. That's normally means that he doesn't have any eggs or anything of that kind. Females are usually hiding under the slates. I'm trying to find one. It's difficult to see them, but they're normally hiding under the slates. Yeah, so it's a nice setup in here that I seem to like quite a lot. There is so there is a nice setup that I seem to like quite a lot, and there's a lot of Christmas moss growing on top of that piece of driftwood up there, and it certainly provides extra cover for the fish and hopefully removes some nitrates. Yeah, that male in here definitely is on eggs or with fry. Right, yeah, so not much happening in this tank, but this is what you would normally expect from Hypancistrus or quite a lot of other plex, and I'm quite fine with how this setup looks like. Well, this other tank next door is a kind of a work in progress. It's certainly not scaped. It has this piece of driftwood with some moss on it, and lots of pothos roots, some caves, and it has a collection of Corydoras which will later go into different setups. So in here I have one of the Corydoras equus juveniles, which I've ordered from Tropco. If you are in the UK, you've probably heard of the online fish retailer Tropco, and I'm quite disappointed with this fish, to be honest. They've arrived last week really tiny, emaciated, with really kind of a sunken bellies, and they don't look like a quality fish. And to be honest, I've never seen juveniles of Corydoras equus, but they don't look anything like Corydoras equus, and they don't look like the photos that I could find, for example, on the Planet Catfish of Corydoras equus. So if anyone had Corydoras equus before, please comment if these are actually Corydoras equus, because to me they don't look like Corydoras equus. They look a bit like Corydoras concolor, but considering that they are quite miserably looking, I don't really know whether they are concolor. I also have here two juvenile Corydoras duplicareus, and they've gotten here by mistake. I believe that I moved some plants with Corydoras X on them from a different setup where I have my Corydoras duplicareus, and they just were born here, and they grew up in here. Also, there is a group of my Corydoras multiradiatus, formerly known as Brochis multiradiatus. I've bought them, I think, like a month ago, and apparently they're definitely wild caught fish, but apparently they were a fresh import. So initially they did not eat anything apart from live blackworms or frozen bloodworms, and it has taken me a while to get them onto dry foods, but now they certainly do eat dry foods, and they seem to enjoy a variety of dry foods, and they have adapted quite well and settled quite well. They're really impressive, massive Corydoras, one of the largest Corydoras species. I will eventually move them into my display tank, which will be kind of a temperate community of South American fish where they will fit in perfectly, but for now they're staying in here. So this tank is certainly not overcrowded. It only has this few Corydoras in here, and again with Corydoras equus, you can see them here. I have no idea whether these are Corydoras equus, and I'm quite disappointed with this purchase, unfortunately. You can see how thin they are, and how not particularly healthy looking they are. I will of course do my best to try to feed them up and get them into a better shape, but I don't think it is gonna help. Right, moving on to the last tank in here, and this is actually my favorite tank in here. This is a shallow setup with a variety of South American fish, but mostly Corydoras, tetras, and rubber-nosed plecos. So you can see one of the rubber-nosed plecos in here. I'll try to zoom in. That is a female. That's a Chaetostoma formosa species. There are also males in here. They don't breed for me yet, but they seem to be juveniles. I got here two species of Corydoras. The first one is Corydoras Aenius Trinidad. You can see one of them in here, a few of them around. They're still juveniles, but I can see already there are some plump females, and there are some good-looking males as well. I also have here my breeding group of Corydoras duplicareus. You can see here one of the juvenile Corydoras. There's lots of Corydoras fry in here of all ages. A bit of blackbird algae growing on dwarf such, which is fine for me. Yeah, there are adults, there are juvenile Corydoras, there's a whole lot of them in here. I don't know how many, but ever since I moved them to this tank, they started breeding like crazy, and I have now tons of them in here. I can't really catch them out because of the amount of plants in here, so they're just enjoying their time. There is also one royal whiptail. I don't know which species is it. I just bought it at the local fish store, and that's the only fish they had left. There are some Pristella tetras, a couple of black neon tetras, and a few Aphiocharex rasbani. And that's it in terms of the population of this tank. I really like all the plant life on this tank. You can see here there is really nice growing Echinodorus polyfolius. This is Echinodorus argentinensis actually. There is a golden pothos in the back and tons of hydrocotyle Leocephala growing immersed, kind of spreading out its branches all over the place. It's actually already reaching into the neighboring tank. So I really like all this plant growth in here, especially immersed plant growth, and yeah, it looks really beautiful. Yeah, just show this tank from the top. Yeah, that's definitely my favorite tank in the fish room, and it's probably also the best scaped tank that I have. Although I made no efforts to scape it, it's kind of developed all by itself. There are also these areas on the surface with some Riccia moss and some Christmas moss growing immersed. So yeah, lots of things happening in this tank. I don't have any specific filtration in here except this flow pump with some sponge attached to it, and that's it in terms of filtration. And occasionally once per week I fertilize this tank with some pond fertilizer, which actually seems to facilitate all this wild growth, extensive growth from the plants. Yeah, so basically that's it. There seems to be quite a few projects ongoing in my fish room, and quite a few fish breeding. In terms of additional stocking for these tanks, I might get a few more Corydoras for this setup, because there are quite a few fish in here, so there's still some space to add some fish in here. And if I'll see anything interesting in terms of other Corydoras species, I will be adding them to this tank downstairs in order to move them later on to our main display tank. So right, I hope you liked this brief update video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, as there will be more updates on these tanks and on our forthcoming main display tank project. And yes, do leave your comments in the comment section, and I'll see you soon.